So, Vladimir Putin. For more than 25 years now, this man has been the guy in Russian politics, right? Seems like he's always been there. But if you really want to get a handle on the man who's, let's be honest, completely reshaped our world, we've got to go deeper than the news clips. We need to pull back the curtain and see what really makes him tick. And that's exactly what we're going to do.
And this right here, this is the massive contradiction at the heart of his entire story. I mean, think about it. How does a guy who promised to make Russia strong again, to wipe away the memory of the chaotic 90s, how does that guy end up plunging his own country into its biggest disaster since the Soviet Union fell apart? It's a huge question. And to even begin to answer it, well, we have to go back, way back.
Okay, first things first. Before he was ever Mr. President, he was something else entirely, a spy. And you have to understand his entire playbook, everything about how he operates politically, it wasn't shaped in debates or elections. No, it was forged in the shadows, in the secret world of the KGB.
And this wasn't an accident. This was a path he chose, deliberately. As a kid, he was totally hooked on those old Soviet spy movies, the romantic idea of the secret agent saving the day. He actively went out and tried to join the KGB. And for 16 years, that wasn't just his 9-to-5. It was his whole world. It was a complete indoctrination into a very, very specific way of seeing things. And this quote, this tells you everything you need to know about his core belief system. It's not just, I love my country. It's something deeper. It's this absolute conviction that one person, one spy, working behind the scenes can do what entire armies can't. That secrecy and covert action are the most powerful tools in the world. This idea, it's literally the software he runs on. It's his operational code. And that code got burned into his psyche by a pretty traumatic experience. Picture it. It's 1989, the Berlin Wall is coming down. Putin is a young KGB officer in Dresden, East Germany, and he's watching angry mobs surround his building. He sees the all-powerful Soviet Union just evaporate. Poof, gone overnight. That moment, that feeling of helplessness and chaos, it left a permanent mark. It gave him this deep, lifelong fear of a weak state and an absolute hatred of public humiliation. So he goes back to a Russia that is just pure chaos. And what does he do? He takes that spy mindset and applies it to politics. He moves quietly, silently, up the ladder in the messy, crumbling government of the 90s. He basically made himself the answer to the very chaos he knew how to navigate from his spy days. And he started to build his system, brick by brick. And his big idea, his master plan, was something called the power vertical. It's actually a great name because it's exactly what it sounds like. The entire goal was to take the messy, decentralized Russia of the 90s and flip it on its head, to build a rigid, top-down system where all power flows from one place, the Kremlin, and one person, him. And he built this thing using a 3-part strategy. First up, the war in Chechnya. It was brutal, but it created his image as the tough, no-nonsense strongman Russia needed. Second, he went after the oligarchs. He took Russia's richest man, Mikhail Khodorkovsky, and made a huge, terrifying example out of him. The message was crystal clear. Your money means nothing without loyalty to me. And third, and maybe most importantly, he took over the media. He grabbed control of national TV, making sure his version of reality was the only one people saw. Now look at these numbers, because this is the deal he offered the Russian people. This was his social contract. For folks who were just completely worn out by the poverty and chaos of the wild 90s, this was a very good deal. Paychecks got bigger, a lot bigger. Poverty was cut in half. Things felt stable again. And in return for that stability and a little money in their pockets, most people were willing to look the other way as their political freedoms started to disappear. All right, so once he had a lock on power at home, he started looking outwards, and he began using the exact same playbook on the world stage. Pressure, taking out rivals, and manipulating the truth. His focus shifted from fixing Russia to confronting what he saw as a hostile West.
And pretty quickly, you start to see a very clear pattern emerge. The 2008 invasion of Georgia? That was a shot across the bow, a clear warning. Don't you dare get too close to the West. Then you get the takeover of Crimea, jumping into the war in Syria, backing the dictator in Belarus. Each move was another calculated step to rebuild Russia's old sphere of influence, and to see just how far he could push.
The whole Crimea operation was pure KGB playbook. It was a perfect example of a tactic called maskirovka, which basically just means deception. Step 1. Flat out deny everything. Russian troops? No way. Those are just local guys. This gives you plausible deniability. Step 2. Once you've won, you drop the act and proudly admit it. Yeah, that was us. And we were brilliant. It shows you exactly how he thinks. Reality isn't fixed. It's something you create.
And underneath all these military moves was this really powerful and frankly dangerous ideology. This quote from right before the big invasion in 2022 lays it all bare. It's a total rejection of Ukraine's right to even exist as a country. In his worldview, Ukraine isn't real. It's just a piece of Russia that got broken off by mistake. And you have to understand, this wasn't just him talking. This was the justification for everything that happened next.
Which brings us to it, the defining moment, the catastrophic centerpiece of his entire reign, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. This wasn't a random event. It was the end result of everything we've been talking about. 20 years of absolute power, an ideology obsessed with past grievances, and, as it turned out, one of the biggest strategic blunders in modern history.
So, in the dead of night, February 24th, 2022, he goes on TV and says this. He talks about genocide and denazification. And almost immediately, the rest of the world called it what it was, a completely phony excuse for a massive war of aggression, the biggest war in Europe since World War II. The dice were rolled, and the price tag, well, it was going to be unimaginable.
Let's talk about that price, starting with the human cost for Russia itself. Just look at this number. By late 2025, estimates put the number of Russian soldiers killed and wounded at over 1 million. That is a demographic disaster. Then came the financial hit. Almost instantly, the West froze over $300 billion of Russia's own money in foreign banks. Imagine that. Suddenly, a huge chunk of your country's savings is just gone, inaccessible. But the long-term damage might be even worse. Since the war started, more than 1 million skilled Russians, we're talking tech workers, scientists, entrepreneurs, they've packed up and left. It's a catastrophic brain drain that has gutted the Russian economy. And you can see the impact right here. The war has literally wiped out more than $1.5 trillion in potential growth for Russia. He has essentially torched his country's economic future for this war. And on the world stage, total isolation. When the UN voted to condemn the invasion, the result was a landslide. 141 countries against Russia. He built a fortress to protect Russia from the world, and he ended up locking it inside a cage. So, when you put it all together, what's the verdict? Is this the story of a master strategist who just made one epic mistake? Or was this always going to happen? Was he a paranoid autocrat whose own obsessions were destined to lead his country to ruin from the very beginning? In the end, the math of his legacy is actually pretty simple, and it's brutal. You take the stability he created early on, and you subtract the absolute catastrophe he unleashed later. That early achievement, it's been completely wiped out, totally canceled by the disaster he single-handedly created. In his obsession to fix the humiliations of the past, he has torched his country's future. And so the real question isn't about his legacy anymore. The real question is, what on earth comes next?